Hello! So, today we will be working on rocks that trap gas experiment. Some things that you'll need, first of all, is the worksheet that comes with the actual experiment. And the list of things that you'll also need is sand, clay, 2 8-ounce wide neck glass jars, a 16-ounce or a cup of water, and your magnifying glass. You first want to start off with the sand. You want to feel the sand and clay with your hands. And I want you to focus a little bit on how that feels and how they're different from each other. So let's open this bit up first. So you want to feel the clay a little bit and understand the textures a little bit. And then you also want to get a little bit of the sand in your hand and feel a little bit what that feels like as well. Now that you've done that, you kind of want to take what you noticed and write that down on your first question. Now we can move on to the second step, which is using your magnifying glass. With the magnifying glass, you want to examine the sand a little bit and see what differences you might see. You want to be able to see what it looks like and any differences in there. And then you want to do the same thing with your clay block. Examine it with the magnifying glass and see a little bit of what the differences are. You've done that, you want to fill one jar almost to the top with sand, and then your second jar is going to be full of clay. Now that you have both of your jars full, you want to go back to your worksheet, and on question number 3, it's going to ask you 2 different questions. The first question is, are the jars full? And yes, they are. The second is, what do you think will happen if we add water to both of these jars? So now we can actually try that out. So step 4, you want to start with your sand jar. We want to fill the jar to the top with water and see what happens. You want to ask yourself, where does the water go? Keep filling it. And you can start to see the water rise around the edges. And finally, we start to see it at the top. But where does the water actually go? So now it's time for us to fill up the jar with the clay. And we also want to pay attention to where the water goes in this one. What type of reaction does it have versus the reaction that it has with the sand? You can see that the water mostly just sits there, and versus when we had the sand, it kind of gets trapped by the sand at the bottom and then rises at the top. So for your last question on the worksheet, you have a little diagram of the different types of maybe gas and oil and water and how that works, maybe how they're separated. So take a look at the last question and answer for yourself. There's also more research that you can do to find out how different materials react with water. But thank you so much for hanging out with us today, and we hope you had a great time.